Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&A, so let me get my hat on. And let's get to this first question. Alright, if someone's starting strength is too low to squat the bar, which squat version do you recommend a beginner use to work their way up to the bar? Okay, it's pretty straightforward. What I have a lot of beginners do, again people I've worked with over the years, including even Brittany, different friends of mine who needed help learning the basics. You'd be surprised how many people can't even squat a barbell. What I have a lot of people do is learn to squat to a box, okay, with just their body weight. Because what I find the majority of people when they start squatting, and it's particularly women, like female friends of even Brittany and I have, they have the inability to actually squat to depth even with their body weight. It's like they're scared to actually sit down. It's like they use really weird body posture, and so you've got to get people to learn to squat down to a box to actually get to depth. And the box gives them, if you give them something that's the right height, it gives them the ability to get down to it. So usually it's not just strength, there's mobility issues that stop people from being able to squat. It's not just strength as you're thinking of it. But obviously if you can't use the bar, you have to start with body weight. You've got to start with body weight. Now, occasionally you get people, something I had to teach myself the hard way. After I spent pretty much a year in bed, I couldn't even walk. I had to learn how to walk again. But you know what? I couldn't squat my body either because I was 100 pounds overweight from eating too much while depressed and stuck in bed sick. All right, I was depressed. I lost all my strength. And I was overweight. So I was basically someone who is barely strong enough to walk, who had to try to squat the equivalent of an extra 100 pounds. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So what I had to do was hold on to the back of a chair and squat doing that so that I could use my upper body just to help lift me back up. And that is something you can use too, because a lot of people who start out are so weak they can't even squat their own body. And I know some people say that's not possible. Sure it is. Sure it is. And if any of you are going to become trainers, you're going to work with even members of your family. Let's say you're not a trainer at all. You could just be trying to help get your mom into shape. Maybe your mom's been sedentary, gotten overweight. How do you do that? Well, you have to have them start squatting, holding onto the back of a chair if they can't even do their body weight. Then, once they're strong enough to do 9 or 10 reps, holding onto the back of a chair, and that could take a week or two. And depending on how overweight they are, it might take longer. Alright, so if that happens, you've got to do that. Then you can have them learn to squat to a box so that they can learn how to squat down and feel something under them and build that confidence that they're not going to fall backwards, because that's a big problem for a lot of people. There's a psychological issue with it also, them falling backwards. And until people can learn to do that, they're not going to be able to do a barbell. And you know what? Sometimes you've got to be even more gradual than that. You can't just go straight from the box to a barbell. Sometimes you have to have them use little 5-pound dumbbells, then 10-pound dumbbells up on their shoulders. But there are ways to do this. They don't have to go straight to the barbell. It's not necessary. Not everyone can squat the barbells right from the start. Alright, next question. Could you talk about why every celebrity transformation they always seem to eat mostly protein and very low carbs? Seems the best nutrition industry advocates carbs for performance, yet celebrity trainers always seem to advocate little to no carbs. The why, maybe their trainers aren't that good. That's something to consider there. Maybe their nutritionists really aren't that good. They're just pseudoscience guys. They're pulling people from the bodybuilding world. A lot of these celebrity trainers are like that, and the thing is, they're pumping them full of drugs anyways. Most celebrity transformations guys are on a lot of drugs. Usually they can get this stuff easy, and people say, no, they're not doing that. Watch my video on it. It makes sense when you understand it, that clearly that's what they're going to do for the role. It's because they're focusing mainly on protein. They're not eating a low-carb diet. So a lot of these guys, when you look at what they're eating, they're being stuffed full of 4,000, 5,000 calories a day sometimes. All right? But when you're training for 4 to 6 hours a day, you've been put on a fair amount of gear, particularly fat-burning ones. All right? And they're burning through thousands of calories training, it's okay. They're actually not even eating that low carb. It's just that they're focusing usually on a lot of protein, and that's the big deal. If you look at some of the breakdowns of these diets, some of these guys are on 500 grams of protein a day. That's not helping them necessarily. It's not even helping with the drugs. It's just that they're working with trainers or dietitians who work with bodybuilders, and that's all it comes down to. Yeah, honestly, they would do just as well running a moderate protein, high carb, low fat diet. They would get the exact same results. It just has to do with what they're putting in them. And again, these are people who are being put on huge workloads, usually put on drugs, everything else. At a certain point, they're just burning through an enormous amount of calories. And just because the celebrity trainers are having them do it that way with those sort of foods, that doesn't mean that it's going to work any better than something else. And in fact, they might actually get slightly better results with other stuff, but they don't need to get amazing results. These guys don't even need to get the best results possible out of the drugs they're doing. They just need to pull off the transformation and impress the average person. What people need to understand, the average person's view of what is an awesome, amazing physique is not the view that people hold in the fitness and bodybuilding world. You need to keep that in mind also. Just throwing that out there so that people understand that. The average person doesn't see it the way that the industry and people who've been in this community a while see it. And what you're trying to do is impress the audience. You're not trying to impress the bodybuilding world. So important distinction also. All right, next question. Could eating one meal a day as per an intermediate fasting diet protocol, for example, be potentially harmful in terms of the body's insulin sensitivity, etc.? Honestly, I don't know. I don't think we have enough long-term studies on this. I see some possible negatives of fasting, obviously, but there are also some potential benefits as well. I'm not really going to knock intermittent fasting. I'm not going to knock it because there may be some health benefits to it. People who say, oh, it's proven. No, it's not proven at all. It's speculative and potential. But what people need to understand, look at intermittent fasting purely as more of a health tool, potential health tool, and a viable weight loss method to help you regulate your calories. That's what it comes down to. It's not useful for other stuff, meaning people who are trying to gain muscle. If you're intermittent fasting, I think you're really wasting your time. You are actually going to slow your muscle gains. Intermittent fasting is going to mess with your daily muscle protein synthesis. There's where you need to be concerned. It is going to interfere with muscle gains to some extent. And now I'm not saying you can't gain muscle doing it, but you are going to gain muscle slower, period. It has to do with basically bunching all your protein and even your carbs into one section at a time. That's not beneficial to you for gaining muscle. The other thing that people need to consider, I don't know, let's talk about the health problems from eating just the one meal. Okay, I understand intermittent fasting, but if you're doing less than 2 or 3 meals in your feed window, you're doing one meal intermittent fasting, I'm sorry, I can't support that. That's absurd. It's going to make your life uncomfortable. Everything else, because you're eating an enormous amount of food in one sitting. You're going to be bloated, lethargic, tired. And that might be where you're thinking of the insulin sensitivity, because yeah, that's what's going to happen. If you're limiting yourself to one giant meal a day, and let's say you're on 2,300 calories, 2,500 calories, you're trying to lose weight, you're very active. Eating that in one meal isn't comfortable. It's going to be harsh on your digestive system. It's going to be harsh on your stomach. It's going to make you tired, lethargic. It's just, that's really not ideal. When I think of intermittent fasting and people doing it for health benefits and stuff, I'm thinking of them limiting themselves to like a 6-hour feed window or an 8-hour feed window, and they're fasted the other 16 hours of the day. That's a sort of intermittent fasting you might see some health benefits from, not consuming just one meal a day. One meal a day is going to be hard on your body, and it's just stupid. Anyone advocating that, I'm sorry, it's just stupid. I can't support that. For obvious reasons, if it's just impacting your lifestyle and your quality of life and how you feel every day. Alright, next question. Hey Jason, I used to run a high carb diet, but when I eat big amounts of carbs, my body temperature gets very high. What should I do about that? I'm a very low appetite and high metabolism. I'm 19 years old, 175 pounds. My goals are 200 pounds in body weight and a 400 pound deadlift. 1 year training experience. Alright, brother. 1 year training experience, you're 175. Why aren't you deadlifting 400 pounds now? We probably need to talk about this a little better. It's time to refine your training a bit. Now, if you're not running one of my programs, okay. But if you're running one of my programs and you've been running it a year, I expect you to be at that 400 pound deadlift already at a year's time. So I don't know. I might also question what training programming you're running. Now, that being said, as far as the high body temperature, yeah, that's normal. That's normal. People who eat very high carb diets, who are athletic and active, lift weights, do cardio, you're going to heat up every time you eat carbs. Okay, there's a thermic effect to it. It raises your body temperature. Now, if you're really low appetite, this is causing you problems. If you're struggling to gain weight, you might want to consider adding a little more fat. It's easier to gain weight with a little more fat in your diet. Ultra high carb diets that are, again, primarily carbs, it's actually hard for a lot of people to gain body weight on them, especially if you're a low appetite person. You might struggle to even get enough calories doing that unless you're eating more refined carb sources. But again, a lot of it has to do with the fiber intake needs and everything else. But as far as dealing with the thermic effect, you just have to live with it. I mean, I live in a very, very hot place right now. I obviously spent 3 years in a very cold place when I first started YouTube even. Back in Texas, yeah, it's insanely hot here. Most people who haven't been out here, they'd be shocked. So yeah, and I eat a high carb diet right now. Yeah, the thermic effect is a problem. It can get you hot, everything else. You know what? That's why we have air conditioning. Learn to be in air conditioning. Use a fan. Keep yourself hydrated. If you're going to have to be outside, you don't have access to as much air conditioning, yeah, the higher carb diet, you are going to be a little warmer. Drink more water. Make sure you get plenty of electrolytes in. Make sure you're getting a lot of foods in that are high in potassium. When you look at your different grains, fruits, meats, things like that you're eating, drink a lot of water. You'll be okay. Yeah, you're going to sweat a little more. But bathe more often. Keep yourself clean. Keep yourself clean. Again, same thing. I'm on a high carb diet. I'm doing a large amount of cardio right now. So I have to shower twice a day. I mean, you just got to learn to deal with it. So just shower more often. Keep yourself hydrated, and it'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, you're going to be warmer. But you're also going to be warmer if you're athletic in general and working out. It's just the nature of it. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I don't think you've ever discussed the purpose of neck training for aesthetics, athletic purposes. Do you think adding in a couple of neck curl extension sets on a weekly basis could be useful in a specific scenarios? Thanks and keep up the good work. Neck training, I don't recommend necessarily the average person neck train. I think neck training needs to be approached very carefully. Yes, neck harnesses work. You're in a contact sport, building your whole upper back up is a real good idea. A lot of cleaning, a lot of overhead pressing, deadlifts, all that stuff, you need it. You need to build your traps up that way. You need to build up your whole upper back to help support your neck if you're in a contact sport. Contact sports, wrestling, boxing, MMA, football, rugby, okay? Anything where you're going to get hit hard. Neck training can be handy for these guys. All right, but the neck training needs to be kept very, very high rep, meaning ideally, as far as even these neck harnesses and stuff go, you need to remember you've got different muscle fiber distribution in the neck. They're not power muscles. Don't try to train them as such. Don't try to do low reps. People can disagree with me on this all they want, but if you are going to do neck training for contact sport, keep the reps at least 20%. At least 20. Nice moderate weight. Nice moderate weight. And train your neck if you're in a contact sport. For other people who aren't that worried about it, in all honesty, if you're just trying to keep your neck strong enough to keep you from getting hurt, maybe just to help you with whiplash in a car wreck, maybe keep your neck more supported in case you do get in a fist fight or altercation and someone hits you, you probably don't need to focus on the neck that much. It's just not that big of a deal. Your neck's going to get bigger just from lifting weights heavy and working your whole upper shoulder, your shoulder girdle, your upper back. If you're training all of that, and you should be if you're on a balanced program, all that stuff, it's going to hypertrophy anyways. Guys who are trying to maximize it are trying to minimize their chances of a neck injury in some sort of contact environment. But for most of you, it's not a real enough risk. You're not being hit with a 300-pound guy out on a field. You're not going to get kicked in the head by a black belt MMA fighter. Probably not that big of a deal, not something you really need to focus on or put direct isolation work into. If you're in a contact sport, yeah, absolutely, there are benefits to that. So hopefully that explains it. All right, next question. Hi, I'm a novice lifter and I've been doing your novice program and made great gains on it, but now I've reached a point where I can't progress and it's getting very hard to progress on almost all of the 5x5s. And the workouts are getting longer because the rest intervals are getting bigger, 5 minutes. in order for me to complete all the sets. I'm not considering switching to your cutting version of the program. How does the 3x5 version compare hypertrophy-wise to the 5x5, and how much will I lose out by doing the cutting version instead? I made a specific video on this already, by the way. Changes that I would make to the 5x5. It was an easy video to find. It got an enormous number of views, by the way. If you're struggling at that point, go ahead and switch to the 3x5. That's fine. That's one of these changes I've made later years after making the original program. And the reason is you're still moving a lot of tonnage. Meaning, if you started with 125 pounds on the 5x5, and now you're doing 300 pounds, if you drop down to 3x5, your total tonnage is still much, much higher than when you started. Okay? Cut down to 3x5, you're going to recover easier. You're going to go back to progressing a little bit faster because you're not having to handle the same tonnages that you were doing before. It's all that tonnage that really adds up. It's that tonnage that accumulates and makes it harder to progress. Yes, tonnage puts size on you. Yes, tonnage puts meat on you. It makes you bigger, but at a certain point, you can only recover from so much weekly tonnage. And I have people squatting a lot, pressing a lot. That adds up. That adds up in terms of fatigue, and there's going to be a threshold, and it sounds like you're there. If you're having to take 5-minute breaks now between sets, all right, 5-minute breaks, and you're stalling, you're probably at the point in the program to where you need to go ahead and switch over to the 3x5. You're at that threshold now. You probably passed it already a while back. So switch to the 3x5. It'll be fine. You're going to gain just as much muscle. You need to remember your gains are going to slow at this point no matter what you do. Okay, that's just the nature of gains. That's the nature of gaining muscle. That's the nature of gaining strength. It's not linear. It's a diminished return curve. The longer you do it, the less and less you're going to get from it. That's just how it happens. Sounds like you probably milked out most of your new gains. Congrats. All right, next question. Hey Jason, when I do weighted dips, I get sternum pain, not exactly in the middle, but a little bit on the left arm. My sternum cracks when I twist to the side sometimes. Is it something common not to worry about? If not, how can I fix this problem? Thanks. All right, you need to avoid dips. All right, don't let anyone tell you at this point dips are going to be fine. You're going to build that up. You're one of these guys who have that looser cartilage in your sternum. Okay. You need to just keep strength training till you harden everything up more. Focus upon barbell work. Focus on barbell work for your chest. Overhead pressing, you need to skip the dips. Do barbell work that limits your range of motion, doesn't put that stress on your sternum, because you are the prime candidate. You're the guy who's going to crack his sternum doing dips. Is there anything you can do about it? Not that I know of. Those plates and everything might tighten up. That cartilage might grow and fill in a little better as you continue to strength train, build muscle. I don't know your age. If you're not 21 yet, yeah, your strength training might strengthen it up a little bit more. It might grow more. If you're older than that, that stuff is pretty well set. Pretty well set, and it is what it is. You need to just avoid dips, and you need to avoid any exercise that makes you hear that clicking or that popping inside your sternum. Okay, this is what it is. Not much you can do about it. It's the way you're built. You're younger though, the regular strength training may tighten it up over time, and if that goes away and that area tightens up and thickens up the cartilage and bone in that area as you continue to grow, if you're still in your teens, you might be okay to do dips in a couple years. But for now, absolutely not. Don't do them. You are running a major risk of hurting yourself. All right, next question. Hey Jason, starting your novice 5x5 and had a question. Currently my maxes for the squat sit in the 340s, deadlift about 520, and my bench seriously lacks. With an estimated 1 rep max at about 200 pounds. I'm taller and longer, so I seem to struggle at mechanical disadvantage with the bench. And your novice 5x5, a good program to get on to bring these numbers up and develop my upper body more, even if my squat and deadlift are acceptable in your strength standards. And even when the squat and deadlift weights surpass the bench. Thanks, Jason. No, you have no business running my novice program, brother. What are you thinking? You're squatting mid 300s and you deadlift over 500? No, don't run my novice program. It's going to bury you. Run my intermediate off-season program. Okay, run my intermediate off-season program. It's a linear periodization program in 12-week blocks. do not do any accessory work for your squat or deadlift. Run the program and put all of your accessory work as bench press accessories. Okay? Bench press accessories. You'll be doing plenty of benching, plenty of overhead pressing. Again, your bench accessories could be some tricep work, it could be dips, it could be extra close grip bench press. Focus upon bench press related accessories in that basic linear periodization for your bench press and your overhead press. That will bring it up. Don't do any accessory work for your lower body. Okay, don't do any, because you don't need that right now. That's not your weak point. But my novice program, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Should not even be considered for someone at your overall strength level. It will bury you. It's not intended for you, and your bench isn't going to improve on it the way that you want. That program's going to bring your squat up more than anything. Your bench can get good on it, but you're already near the end of where that program would even help your bench press. So run my intermediate program. Focus upon bench press accessories as all your accessory work. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. And I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.